Hey, this is Beatrice with ICC. Welcome to Parole Amate and the letter E. I went through a sort of assonance journey, a little bit intuitive with this letter, starting with the word ecco, E-C-C-O, ecco, that comes from the Latin eccum and earlier ecce, E-C-C-E. And the idea is that of a sudden apparition of a person or a thing. And it also sometimes can mean there or done, a sense of completion, or the beginning of an important conversation, perhaps delicate, sort of like, ecco, volevo dirti, I wanted to tell you, which is, which to sort of introduce, like akin to allora, perhaps. And it's also a here you go, if you want. So it's very malleable, and it can also be used with adverbs of place, sort of like eccola lì, eccoci qui, and of course adding the personal pronouns, sort of eccomi, here I am, eccoci, here we are. And then there is another word that came to mind, that's eccome, which does not derive from echo, but it's instead a late word, sort of end of 19th century, and a reminder that not everything comes from Greek and Latin. In Italy, this is a more recent formation, and it's done with the e, and come, how, and how. And the translation often could be so much, or that's right. It could, for example, be used as an answer to a question like, did you like the ice cream? Eccome, so much, right? It definitely used to be very used when I was young. I don't know if it is as much right now. And then we can think of that word eccetera, that's sometimes used in a row, like eccetera, eccetera, eccetera. And of course it's like eccetera in English, except eccetera maintains the Latin it and cetera, right? Other things, and the other things, and the rest. Perhaps because of the proximity of Latin to Italian, that more correct spelling has been shifted into an Italian form that is eccetera with the double C. And then there is this word that's not a word, it's an interstitial, I actually don't know, I should ask my real teacher friends, but the word EH, right? And that is perhaps the most usable, malleable E word I can think of. The Canadians use it, but not so much in the States, right? It's this idea of, it can be emphasis, like or assent and agreement, and you follow along the conversation, a kind of right? It can also be a giving up and unknowing, a fatalism, sort of like that. And whenever I worked in translation for theater and recently for film, whenever we want to give more of a rhythm, a cadence of a character that should read as Italian, it's kind of a process of transforming all the accent into these instead of or even or I agree, and so forth. And then finally, in the last couple of minutes we have left, I will shift to celebrate a writer whose name starts with the letter E. Her name is Elena Ferrante, and I'm sure some of you are familiar with her. We did some workshops too with the San Diego Italian Film Festival recently this past year when we could gather. And it's a female voice I want to celebrate, particularly because I realized from A to D, whenever I've gone or I've been inspired to share something literary, has been through the words of a male writer, because I've studied mostly those growing up. So it's from Italo Calvino, Boccaccio, Dante. It is nice to embrace Elena Ferrante. And just quickly, a couple of things that have really conquered me in reading her tetralogy that starts with My Brilliant Friend, which is also an HBO series right now, is that I'd never experienced someone who sculpted and exploded so well the fundamental conflict, perhaps, of being so close to another girl. It's sort of a fierce love, but also mixed with a sense of competition or sometimes inferiority or superiority. That complication, that I have a sister who is brilliant. I've experienced all of that, but I've never experienced it in such sculpted writing. It is sort of what Louise Gluck, the American poet, talks about when she talks about two sisters being raised so similarly that then you wonder something like, can there be two of the same? I think these are more or less her words. And then the other aspect that Elena Ferrante did brilliantly when setting her novels in Naples was to, you know, I've been exposed to so much that's dark and sort of seen with a criminal lens about mafia and camorra, and what she's able to do is show how those relationships and that system of power is really built from day-to-day interaction with the son of the butcher who's bound to the mafia, you know. So it's a sort of it's a smaller lens, but also more impactful ultimately in the day-to-day lives of these people. Okay, anyway, Elena Ferrante is taking us from E to F, and I'll see you next week for F. Bye. Have a good night, everybody.